Hello guys, welcome to my mommy's channel. Today he's making a short piece set for me. If you want to see how he made it, then please stay tuned. Alright guys, let's get started.
I have a couple yards of mustard yellow linen. I used a little less than a yard for this project. I used a pair of my daughter's shorts and a loose-fitting crew neck tee to trace for the pattern. I take the shorts and fold them to the back. I trace the side going up from the widest part of the short up to the back waistline. I continue tracing around to the other side, and again I trace up from the widest part up to the back of the waistline. I know I have it laid flat, but I actually folded the shorts in half to the front, and again traced up from the widest part to the back waistline. I traced around and traced up from the widest part of the inner seam to the back waistline. Next, I take the shirt and fold it to the front. Starting from the back neckline, I trace around the shirt and I use my seam ripper to poke through to indicate the armhole seam. Starting from the front neckline, I trace around again. I take the sleeve and lay it flat. Then I trace around using my seam ripper to poke through to indicate the top sleeve seam onto the craft paper. Here are the patterns for the front and back of the shorts. To make sure they were the same length, I line the straight edges together and trace up from the bottom corner, then straight across the waistline. I use my curved ruler to continue tracing up from the inner seam to the waistline. I've added 2 inches to the top waistline because these will be high-waisted. Then I added my 1/2 inch seam allowance as well. On the straight edge, I added a 1/2 inch seam allowance because both patterns will be cut into 4 separate pieces. Here are the front and back pattern pieces for the shirt. I cut out 1 each on the fold. For the sleeve pattern, I added 1 inch to the bottom to make it a bit longer, and I cut 2 of these on the fold. Now I have all 4 pieces cut out onto fabric, which include all 4 pieces for the shorts, the front and back shirt, the sleeves, and the 4 pocket pieces for the shorts. The pockets are optional, but if you want to see how I made them, you can click on the link in the upper right hand corner. I also have the facing for the back opening of the shirt, which is a 4 by 2 inch piece of fabric. I also cut a 6 by 1 inch piece of fabric to make a loop for the button on the back opening. I cut the facing for the neckline as well. To make these, I grab my front and back shirt patterns. I trace along the curve of the neckline, then I trace 2 inches down on the fold and 2 inches across the shoulder. I measure 2 inch points down from the neckline, then trace along that curve with my curved ruler. For the front facing, I cut on the fold and end up with this. For the back facing, I follow the same steps, except I add a 1/2 inch seam allowance along the straight edge and cut 2 separate pieces, and I end up with these 2 pieces here. Now to prepare the facing for the back opening, I give it a quick press. Then I fold it in half backside up and press again. If you want to add some interfacing to make it more sturdy, go ahead and adhere that before folding and pressing. When that's done, I set that to the side. To prepare the loop, aka bias tape, I take my 6 by 1 inch piece of fabric, fold it in half and press. Then I take and fold both raw edges towards the center crease and press. I fold in half and press one last time, then I sew it closed down the open edge with a straight stitch. Here's what I have after it's complete. Next, I fold the end of the loop 1 inch over and cut. Now I have the loop for the back opening. I grab the back of the shirt and press along the fold to indicate the center point. Then I lay it right side up and line the center point of the shirt and the facing together, right sides in, and pin in place. I make sure to pin about 1 inch up from the bottom. From the top, I sew down right above the crease, stop above the pin, and sew across. Then I sew down the other side above the crease with a straight stitch, stopping about 1 to 2 inches down from the top. This is what I end up with here, and now I'll carefully cut down the center, making sure not to cut through any of the stitches. I fold down the 1 to 2 inch opening. Then I grab the loop and line the sides together. Then I line the ends of the loop with the end of the opening a ½ inch down from the neckline. I line the facing over the top and sew all 3 layers closed with a straight stitch. After sewing that closed, I turn the facing over to the back of the shirt and press in place. Next, I grab the front of the shirt and line the shoulders together, right sides in, and sew across with a straight stitch. I also grab all 3 pieces of the neckline facing and line the shoulders together on each sides, right sides in, and sew across with a straight stitch. When that's done, I turn the shirt right side out and grab the neckline facing and press the seam allowance flat. I press the seam allowance of the shoulders flat as well. Okay, so my camera cut off because it died. So what I did here was line the seams of the shoulders with the seams of the facing, right sides in, and pin those seams together. I also fold in the ends of the facing, flush with the back opening, and pin in place. I sew along the neckline with a straight stitch. When that's done, I cut off the excess seam allowance right above the stitch. Then I flip the facing to the back and press in place. I sew a top stitch along the end of the neckline, and I also sew the ends of the facing closed at the back opening. I press that in place when complete. Next, I open the armholes front facing up. Then I line the center point of the sleeve with the shoulder seam and pin. I continue pinning together down both sides, then sew across with a straight stitch. After the sleeves are attached, I line the shirt right side in and pin the underarm seams together. Starting from the top of the sleeve, I sew down to the end of the shirt with a straight stitch. When that's done, I turn the shirt right side out. I set the shirt aside for now. Moving on to the shorts, I grab both back pieces and lay them right side up. I measure 3 inches down the straight edge from the top and line the pocket pieces at that point right sides facing in. I sew together with a straight stitch. Now I line both pieces together right sides in and sew along the curve with a straight stitch. I lay the back of the shorts right side up along with the pockets flipped out right side up as well. I grab the front of the shorts that have been prepared the same way and line those together right sides in. I pin the top and bottom ends of the pockets together. Then I sew down around the pockets, then down the sides with a straight stitch. I also line the inner seams together at the bottom and pin. Then I sew across with a straight stitch. That's done, I turn the shorts right side out. At the top of the shorts, I fold in 1 inch and sew around, leaving a 1 inch opening. When that's done, I grab some elastic. For the elastic, I measure around my daughter's waist, subtract 3 inches and use that measurement. I attach a safety pin at one end of the elastic. Then I insert the pin and the elastic into one side of the open casing. I continue to push and pull through till I get to the other side. When I get through to the other side, I remove the pin and overlap the ends of the elastic about 1 inch and sew together with a zigzag stitch. After sewing that together, I distribute the casing around the elastic evenly. Then I sew the 1 inch opening closed with a straight stitch. Here I have the shorts and the shirt, and all I need to do is hem the raw edges. Before I do that, I try both pieces on my daughter to make sure the length of the shorts are where I want them to be, and to also crop the shirt at my desired length. The shorts fit perfectly, so I went ahead and hemmed around the bottom. Here is the shirt cut and cropped. Now at this point, I can hem the bottom of the shirt and be done, but I decided last minute that I wanted to add a ruffle at the bottom. To do that, I prepared some strips of fabric. For the measurement of the length, I used the bottom of the shirt, then added 11 inches and made it 3 inches wide. I hem at the bottom of the strip and add a gathering stitch along the top. And this is what I end up with here. After I prep the ruffles, I use my seam ripper to cut up the side seams about 2 inches up from the bottom. Next, I pin the ruffles at each end of the bottom of the shirt, right sides in, and the raw ends at the top. I also make sure to not pin my gathering thread. I begin to gather the ruffle enough so that it lines up with the length of the shirt. I try to distribute the ruffles as evenly as I can and pin in place along the raw edges. Do the same for the other side and sew across with a straight stitch. After attaching the ruffles, I sew a top stitch along the seam, and here's a closer look. I flip the shirt wrong side out, then I line and pin the side seams together and sew the opening closed with a straight stitch. I hem the sleeves of the shirt as well. When that's done, I turn the shirt right side out and give it a quick press. I grab the shorts and give those a quick press too. Here is the finished shirt, and at the back of the opening, I've added the button that's about a 1/2 inch wide. As you can see, the button loop fits perfectly. Here are the finished shorts, and now the set is complete. Alright, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you know when there's a new upload. See you guys in the next one. Bye!